I never meant to cross that line with him. He was married, a father, and tied to a life that screamed hands off. But somehow, what began as casual chats at the community center spiraled into a pull I couldn't ignore. One evening, as I lingered in the parking lot after class, his call lit up my phone. "Doors unlocked if you want to talk more." It shifted everything. "Hi, this is Affection Unbound. Real tales with unexpected turns. Let's dive in. I'm Nora, 32, living in a cozy one-bedroom apartment in suburban Columbus, Ohio. It's nothing fancy, tucked between a strip mall and a park where kids play soccer until dusk. I work as a part-time art instructor at the local rec center, teaching pottery and watercolor to adults looking for a hobby. Pays the rent, keeps my fridge stocked with yogurt and takeout leftovers, and lets me splurge on good paintbrushes now and then. My mornings start with black coffee from a machine that's seen better days, and evenings often end with me sketching alone on my balcony, watching headlights streak by on the nearby interstate. I met David through one of my evening classes. He signed up on a whim, he said, after his wife suggested he find something to unwind from his desk job at an insurance firm downtown. It was a Thursday in early spring, the kind where the air still bites but hints at warmer days. He walked in late, apologizing with a sheepish grin, carrying a backpack like he was back in college. Tall, with salt and pepper hair and glasses that slipped down his nose when he concentrated. He wasn't flashy, just jeans, a button-down shirt, and a wedding band that caught the fluorescent lights. We started simple. I showed the group how to mix pigments, and he fumbled his brush, laughing at his own mess. "I'm better with spreadsheets than this," he joked. I smiled and leaned over to adjust his grip, noticing the faint scent of aftershave mixed with office coffee. By the end of class, he stayed back to clean up, asking questions about technique. His voice was steady, thoughtful, like someone who weighed words before letting them loose. We talked about the local art scene, how Columbus had hidden gems like the Wexner Center, and he mentioned taking his daughter there once. "She's 8, thinks everything's a masterpiece," he said, his eyes lighting up in a way that made him seem younger. The next week, he brought in a photo of his kid's drawing for advice on framing. I suggested a simple mat board, and he nodded like I'd solved a puzzle. As classes went on, our chats lingered. He'd wait until others left, then ask about my inspirations, why I chose art over a steady paycheck. I told him about dropping out of a corporate gig years ago, how creating felt like breathing after holding my breath too long. He shared bits, too. Long hours at work, weekends coaching Little League, the quiet routine of family life. "My wife handles most of the home stuff," he added once, not bitterly, just factually. It hung there, unspoken context. One rainy night after class, the power flickered from a storm rolling through. Everyone else bolted, but he offered to help stack chairs. We ended up sitting on the studio floor, thunder rumbling outside, sharing cold sodas from the vending machine. He talked about his marriage, not complaining, but like he was piecing together his own thoughts. We met young, built a life, but sometimes it feels like we're on autopilot. I listened, not judging, just there. When the lights steadied, he glanced at his watch. "Better head home before she worries." But as he grabbed his coat, our hands brushed, and he paused, eyes meeting mine in a way that wasn't about art anymore. Over the following weeks, excuses piled up. He'd text about supply recommendations, then swing by my apartment complex's coffee shop on his way home. We'd sit in a corner booth, steam from lattes curling between us, discussing everything from Buckeye football games to the best hiking spots in Hocking Hills. He laughed easily, a deep sound that warmed the space. Once he admitted the class was his escape. At home, it's schedules and bills. Here, I remember I can still surprise myself. I felt it too. That spark of something alive amid the ordinary. His calls started coming more often. "Quick question about glazing," he'd say, but we'd talk for an hour. I knew about his wife, Emily, high school sweetheart, works in real estate, keeps their split-level house in Westerville spotless. He mentioned her in passing, like a footnote, but the guilt flickered in his eyes sometimes, especially when his phone buzzed with her name. He'd silence it, apologize vaguely. Then came the night that tilted us. Class ended early due to low turnout, and we walked to our cars under street lamps buzzing with moths. "Want to grab a bite?" "Nothing fancy, just the diner down the road," he suggested. I hesitated, but said yes. Over burgers and fries at a booth with cracked vinyl seats, conversation flowed like the Scioto River after rain. He shared stories of road trips to Lake Erie as a kid, how he dreamed of being a photographer before life steered him elsewhere. I opened up about my failed relationships, how I craved connection but always pulled back. "You seem like someone who knows what she wants," he said softly, his foot accidentally nudging mine under the table. Neither of us moved it. Driving home, my phone pinged. "Thanks for tonight. Felt good to talk." I replied, "Same here." But sleep evaded me, thoughts swirling like paint in water. What was this? Friendship or the start of a mess? A few days later, he showed up at the center unannounced, saying he needed help with a home project, a mural for his daughter's room. We worked late in the empty studio, brushes dipping into blues and greens, his sleeve rolled up, arm close to mine as we painted side by side. When a drop splattered his cheek, I wiped it off without thinking. Time froze. His hand caught mine, and for a second, the world narrowed to that touch. "Nora," he whispered, voice rough. Then he pulled away, muttering about getting home, but the texts escalated. "Good morning. Thinking about that color mix. Miss our talks." I responded, feeling the thrill and the wrongness twist together. One weekend, his family was out of town, wife at a conference, daughter at grandma's. He called, "I'm alone tonight. Door's unlocked if you want to talk more." I stared at my reflection in the mirror, heart pounding. This was the edge. I could turn back. Instead, I grabbed my keys and drove the 15 minutes to his neighborhood, lined with maple trees and minivans. Pulling up, the house glowed warmly, a 2-story colonial with a basketball hoop in the drive. I parked a block away, nerves buzzing. Walking up, I saw him through the window, pacing the kitchen. The door creaked open, and there he was. No words needed. "Come in," he said quietly. The air smelled of pasta sauce and family photos lined the walls. Smiling faces from vacations to Cedar Point. We sat on the couch, a respectful distance at first, but conversation closed the gap. He confessed the emptiness he'd felt for years, how he loved his family but craved feeling seen. I nodded, sharing my own loneliness in a city that felt too big sometimes. Hours blurred. His hand found mine, then his lips brushed my forehead. It wasn't rushed, but inevitable, like a canvas finally taking shape. We didn't plan it, but in that quiet living room, with rain pattering on the roof, we crossed into something forbidden. Guilt hovered, but so did the rush. The way his touch made me feel alive, wanted. That night marked the shift. Mornings after, I'd wake with a mix of warmth and dread, checking my phone for his message. Last night was real, but reality crept in. His ring, my ethics. We'd meet in hidden spots, a trail in Alum Creek Park, my apartment when neighbors were out, stolen lunches at hole-in-the-wall spots near German Village. He'd sneak away from work. I'd adjust my schedule. Each time the connection deepened, stories of his childhood in Cleveland, my dreams of exhibiting in New York, laughter over shared quirks, like hating crowds at the Ohio State Fair. But cracks appeared. He'd cancel last minute. Emily's home early. I'd see him at class with forced normalcy, his daughter sometimes tagging along, innocent eyes reminding me of the stakes. One evening, as we lay tangled in my sheets, he whispered, "This can't go on forever." I knew, but pushed it away. I didn't want to admit how deep I'd fallen for David. His life belonged to someone else. A wife, a daughter, a house in Westerville with a mailbox bearing their last name. But every stolen moment with him felt like stealing a piece of myself back too. That night in his living room had opened a door we couldn't close, and we kept stepping through, reckless and desperate. The weeks after blurred into secret meetups. We'd drive to Blacklick Woods, walk trails where joggers wouldn't glance twice, our hands brushing as we talked about everything but the truth. At my apartment, we'd sit on my faded blue couch, splitting cheap wine from the corner store, laughing over his stories of coaching Little League disasters. Kids tripping over bases, parents shouting from the bleachers. I'd tell him about the time I tried to sell my paintings at a Columbus art fair, only to get rained out and haul soggy canvases home. Those moments felt like ours, carved out of a world that didn't know we existed. But guilt was a shadow that followed us. I'd catch him checking his phone, his face tightening when Emily's name flashed. Once, at a diner near Grandview, he got a call mid-sentence and stepped outside. Through the window, I watched him pace, head down, voice low. When he came back, he forced a smile. "Everything okay?" I asked. "Yeah, just kid stuff," he said. But his eyes didn't meet mine. I didn't push. But the air felt heavier after that. One humid July evening after class, he showed up at my place unannounced. I opened the door, paint still smudged on my hands from a late project. He looked tired, tie loosened, glasses fogged from the heat. "Can I come in?" he asked, voice raw. We sat on my balcony, the hum of cicadas filling the silence. He admitted Emily had started asking questions, why he was late so often, why he seemed distracted. "I told her it's work stress," he said, rubbing his temples. "But she's not stupid." I wanted to say we could stop, that we should stop, but the words stuck. Instead, I touched his arm, and he leaned into me, his breath warm against my neck. "You make me feel like I'm not just going through the motions," he whispered. I wanted to believe that was enough. Days later, everything cracked. I was at the rec center setting up for class when Emily walked in. She was polished, blonde hair pulled back, crisp blouse, the kind of woman who looked like she had it all together. My stomach dropped. "Nora, right?" she said, her smile tight. "David talks about your classes. Thought I'd see what they're about." I mumbled something about watercolor techniques, my hands shaking as I arranged brushes. She stayed for the whole session, sitting in the back, her eyes flickering to me whenever David spoke. He barely looked at me, his answers clipped, his laugh forced. When class ended, she linked her arm through his as they left, her voice bright. "Let's get ice cream with Lily tonight." I stood frozen, the room suddenly too quiet. That night, he texted, "I'm sorry. She suspects something. We need to cool off for a while." I stared at the words, anger mixing with hurt. I didn't reply. For days, I avoided the center, ignored his calls. But the ache didn't fade. I painted furiously. Dark, abstract swirls of red and black, canvases I'd never show anyone. A week later, he showed up at my door, eyes bloodshot. "I can't stop thinking about you," he said. Against my better judgment, I let him in. We fell back into each other. But it was different. Frantic, like we were racing against time. August brought a heat wave, and with it, the end. I was at a coffee shop in the short north when my phone buzzed. It was Emily. "Can we meet?" "I know about you and David." My heart stopped. We met at a park near the Olentangy River, the air thick with humidity. She sat on a bench, composed but pale. "He told me," she said, voice steady but sharp. "Not everything, but enough. Did you think about my daughter? About me?" I tried to apologize, but the words felt hollow. "I didn't mean for this to happen," I said finally. She laughed, bitter. "Nobody ever does." She didn't yell, didn't cry, just stood and left. That evening David called, his voice breaking. "She's giving me a chance to fix this, but I have to let you go." I wanted to scream, to beg, but all I said was, "Okay." The line went dead. I sat on my floor, staring at a half-finished painting, the colors bleeding together like my thoughts. Weeks passed. I quit teaching at the center, took a job at a gallery downtown to avoid running into him. But Columbus felt smaller, like every street corner held a memory. One crisp October morning, I walked past his daughter's school by chance. Through the fence, I saw him on the playground, pushing her on a swing, her laughter carrying over the breeze. He looked lighter, like a weight had lifted. Or maybe he just learned to carry it better. I turned away before he saw me. Months later, I got a package. No return address. Inside was a small watercolor of a buckeye tree, one I'd shown him how to paint. A note in his handwriting read, "You showed me color in a gray world. I'm sorry." I tucked it away in a drawer, next to my own sketches of him, ones I'd never finish. I still drive by that park sometimes, half expecting to see him. But I don't stop. The city moves on, and so do I, carrying the weight of a story that felt real but was never mine to keep. That's where it ends, my heart a little bruised, my canvas a little fuller.